are listening to Talking Hoosier Baseball,
a podcast
by fans from the IUBase.com website.
For anyone wanting more information on the Indiana University baseball program.
Welcome. We're recording this on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. I'm Josh Bennett, joined by Stats Guru Cassidy Palmer, Master of the RPI Carl James, and our guest tonight, Assistant Director of Academics and Certification for Indiana University, Mr. Tyler Wright. So, in addition to putting an end to 2020 college baseball season, COVID-19 has necessitated changes in the way IU student athletes pursue their education. So tonight's podcast is designed to give us all some insight on that and maybe a little bit more. So Tyler, welcome. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. Everything that you all do with the website and everything is great and spotlighting all the student athletes on the baseball team. So you all do a fantastic job. So glad to join you all this evening.
Thank you.
All right. So to get us started, can you tell us a bit about how you came to work with student athletes in an academic capacity?
Yeah. So I was a student athlete. Back in my day, I went to a junior college and I was actually played baseball. So I have that background of working with baseball student athletes, and I think we can't play our sport forever. We really want to, but I think all of us, once that day comes that we can't play anymore, we want to stick around sports as much as possible. So that's when, I decided that I kind of wanted to go the sport management route and kind of wanted to work with student athletes. So I actually went to Western Kentucky University, graduated with my, bachelor's and master's degree there. Went to work at Union College, which is an NAIA school in Kentucky. Worked with, athletic admissions on that side. So worked with the student athletes hand in hand. After a couple of years there, I went to Campbell University in North Carolina, sort of did the certification piece with eligibility and all that. And after a couple of years there, ended up coming here to IU. So been here about 2.5 years now. And, when I was a kid growing up, a lot of people in my family are teachers and educators. So I think that was the route that I kind of wanted to go. And then just kind of as I got older, the sport management route kind of stuck with me. So I always had that teacher. I wanted to go that route in my system, and then the athletic route also. So I think I just kind of combined those two. And then sort of what I do now, I feel like I'm kind of a teacher and sort of doing that athletic piece. So that always appealed to me. And then this job at IU, whenever I applied for it, it stuck out to me. And I love working with the student athletes on a daily basis, and it gives me real joy being able to be that little piece in their journey here at IU.
Yeah. What position did you play when you were a baseball player?
I was in high school. I was a pitcher and first baseman, but then when I got to college, I was just strictly a pitcher. I usually get with my height and everything and being as tall as I am, I usually get the. Did you play basketball when you were? I usually get the basketball thing. I'm like, no, I was a baseball guy. So, and they were like, oh, I bet you were a pitcher, weren't you? And I'm like, yeah.
Still doing any slow pitch or anything like that?
I did it like a couple of years after I graduated from Western, but not really. I mean, to be honest with you, and then I've tried to throw a baseball, like when I go with the guys, or I'll stop my practice and I try to throw a baseball, and I don't have it anymore. I just I can't throw anything anymore. I'll be lucky if I hit like 60 miles an hour on the mound right now. I just can't do it. So maybe I need to pick up some slow pitch or something like that.
So Tyler, with baseball, softball, and volleyball, you directly work with almost 100 student athletes. How would you kind of evaluate in big picture, broad terms, how this fairly unusual semester is progressing for the student athletes so far, about 2.5 weeks in?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a challenge for everybody. I mean, this is new to, all of us. I mean, us here at IU, we had a little bit of glimpse of it in the spring. So we had to learn on the fly then of how to operate with all this. And, the kids now have bought in as good as they can, I guess. It's just really difficult with, a lot of the classes with these student athletes are the online type, whether they're fully online or whether they're sort of like this, where there's Zoom sessions. We have a handful of student athletes that are still, have an in-person class. Of course, they're limited to how many students and everything. But for the most part, they're all online. And, the kids have been pretty good with, staying on top of everything and, doing their study hall hours and individual meetings with me and all that. So we've tried to keep it as normal as possible. And I think, if we try to keep it, have a little bit of normalcy with it and try to keep it as close to, if we were on campus, in the academic center in Memorial Stadium and all that, I think, it helps out quite a bit. So the kids have done a great job, and, I think they're going to, finish this semester pretty strong, just like they did in the spring.
So Tyler, yeah, you kind of touched on what I was getting ready to ask. So when the classes switched to all online in March, that really probably didn't phase you guys too much because most of the players are already on that schedule, it sounds like.
Yeah. So yeah, when they all switched in the spring, those, like you said, all those classes did go online. So most of all the returners basically just kind of picked up to where they were in the spring. The incoming freshmen, it takes a little bit of, still getting used to. That's where those study hall hours and individual meetings with me come in handy. But it's been kind of pretty seamless with the returners, just picking up where they left off.
So you didn't have to adjust your day-to-day schedule too much then?
I mean, day to day, not a whole lot. So kind of how the spring went for us. I think my last day in the office was right in the middle of March. So March 12th was my last day in the office. So kind of worked from home there for a little bit. And then I had my daughter decided to arrive on March 20th. So it was just kind of a big whirlwind of things. So you had COVID going on. I had my daughter being born. And then, really once we got home, then it was priority registration time for all of our student athletes. So we had to sign up for summer classes and we had to sign up for fall classes. So really we got home and I was just, sitting right here where I am right now in front of the computer and meeting with each one of my student athletes and planning out what we're going to take over the summer or what we're going to take over the fall. And then after we got priority registration done, then it went back to kind of our regular routine of individual meetings. So we had to move all those to Zoom and all that. So it was new to all of us, like I said before. So really it was just a learning curve for everybody. We were all just in this together. So it changed a little bit, but like I said, we tried to keep it as normal as possible. And the guys did very well, finishing the semester and had a very good GPA. So I was really proud of them with how they handled, it was just thrown on top of everybody. I mean, right in the middle of the season, I think it was it the middle of the week, right when I think Memphis was about to come to town, I believe. And
Yep.
And it was just a big whirlwind for everybody. But I think the guys and all of our student athletes and staff members at IU handled it pretty well.
Because you talked a bit about how your group was really involved in helping them build a schedule. How do you coordinate with, especially let's say like juniors and seniors that are deep into their majors, with their academic departments on what their schedules look like?
Yeah. So, for example, if a student athlete is, maybe, Drew Ashley, your Tyler Van Pelt's, your Alex Franklin's, and those type students that are, really deep in, science heavy majors. They're wanting to do pre-med, when they graduate IU and things like that. It gets pretty tricky, to be honest with you, to, map those out, especially with those lab type. You may be taking human anatomy or organic chemistry or things like that. There may be a lecture, a discussion, a lab, and you just have to map those out as best as you can. So it really comes in handy when those departments, for example, biology, they already have laid out what they, deem as a good schedule. All your 4 years here at IU, so they kind of map out each semester. Now, obviously, some of those classes can be interchangeable, and some of them just can't. So we try to do as much as we can in the fall for baseball and softball, since they're spring sport, obviously. So those Friday classes, if they're taking a human anatomy and the lab's on Fridays, We may want to try to take that in the fall. If they have to miss a little bit of practice or something, I'd rather them, miss a little bit of practice. And I think Coach Mercer would also, do that in the fall instead of, doing that in the spring. And then obviously on Fridays you're traveling or you got a home game that night. So it can be challenging. So that's where we're working with, myself to map that out, and also their academic advisor within their own major also, and meeting with them, throughout the semester is really key. So like I said, it can be tricky, but we try to work our magic and do the best that we can with it.
Hey, Tyler, with the changes in recent years in transfer rules, the eligibility extensions recently granted because of COVID-19, there are more student athletes who are in postgraduate studies now. What kind of support do you provide to those students? Are the challenges different for graduate students?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's pretty much the same. I keep it pretty similar with, some of them are still, new student athletes. So, Jacob Southern, for example, he's been through college before. I mean, he's been through the 4 years. He knows how all this operates and how it goes, but it's still new to him. Like, IU is still new. This is a new program. This is a new place. So everything's different. The services may be different. So if they're new like that, I'll check in with them a little bit more than I may like Jordan and Grant, for example, this year. I did the same for them last year with them being new. But, maybe this year they kind of do a little bit of their own stuff. But I'm still there for the academic support. It may just not be those weekly meetings that I'm checking in with them, but I'm still checking in with them every couple of weeks, collecting grades and things like that. So to be honest with you, there's really not a whole lot of difference between an incoming freshman and maybe an incoming, grad transfer or something like that.
And we know that academic integrity is majorly important to the athletic department and the university as a whole, and that there are a lot of rules that go along with this. For example, I remember when I was working as a tutor at Memorial Stadium several years ago, pre-COVID, it was strictly in person at Memorial Stadium, and athletes and tutors were actually prohibited from working on anything electronically, couldn't work on anything by email, by video chat, anything like that. So what adjustments have the tutoring services made due to COVID and e-learning, while also making sure that those compliance rules are met?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of training done with our tutors for this exact reason. Obviously holding up the academic integrity piece, which is very important, like you said. So kind of how tutoring works for this semester is obviously all tutoring sessions are virtual. They can either be 30-minute sessions or an hour-long session. So how it will work is the tutor will be on one end of the camera, the student athlete will be on the other. They really try to utilize the screen sharing feature on Zoom so they can do that type stuff. Now, obviously, the stuff still applies if they're taking have a quiz or an exam or things like that. Obviously they can't, share the screen and the tutor do that type stuff and do their work for them. But if they're in a math class, for example, sharing that screen, the tutor can come up with different problems for them and things like that and sort of assist them in that way. We're trying to, cut down on that, really the student and the tutor interaction outside of the session. So if a student athlete needs a tutor, then that really needs to go through me first. And then I'll request that tutor, and then that will go to our tutor coordinator, Laurie Vaughn, who does a great job. So she'll handle all that and process the request and everything. But we try to cut down on, student athletes and the tutor, texting each other or calling or maybe on social media and chatting that way. Just that way everybody's, on the same page and things like that. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but we try to keep it the same as much as possible. Obviously with everything just being as crazy as it is, I mean, we're still learning with some things. So some things may change in the future, but as of right now, it seems to be going pretty smooth these first 2.5 weeks. And I haven't heard of many, issues as far as tutoring and things like that go. So I think it's going to be a pretty smooth, semester as far as tutoring goes.
And I would agree on the shout out for Lori. She was
Lori's
always
great.
fantastic
Yes, she
while I
is.
was down there.
So Tyler, can you think of an example, or do you remember any time a student athlete could leverage or use some of his experiences as an athlete in their sport to improve a project in the classroom?
Yeah, we had a freshman come in. One sticks out. I won't give him. I won't shout him out or anything. I don't want to
Yeah, that's
manipulate that. But there's one freshman that came in, and it was a big transition for him coming from high school to college. Some of these kids come from very small towns, and coming to a bigger town like Bloomington and a big campus like IU. You may have had 15, 20 kids in a class in high school, and you come to IU and you may be in a 300 student lecture hall or something like that. So we had a student athlete come in, and he struggled transitioning, which that's why we're here for academic services. So we're here to assist in things like that. So along with me and our assistant director of learning services, Natalie Purrs, she does a great job with handling the day-to-day stuff. If student athletes need that additional support, along with time management, organizational skills, and things like that. So the student came in and worked with both of us, struggled a little bit, but really regrouped. And to be honest with you, the student has done great ever since, putting up awesome GPAs and excelling on the field and everything as well. So just kind of seeing that big 360, 180 that the student took is just amazing. And I can't wait to see him go to in the 4 years and graduate and walk across that stage. It's gonna, I think Natalie and I will be very proud when that student achieves that accomplishment.
Your duties include meeting with student athletes in freshman orientation. How was that different this summer?
It was a little bit different, obviously, just because everything was on Zoom. It takes a little bit off of getting to know the student athlete, because when the student athlete is actually sitting in your office, you have more time to connect with them and things like that. When everything's virtual, it takes a little bit off, but it wasn't too bad. So we had different sessions that were online throughout the summer. But the actual orientation piece of it and how we operated didn't change at all. So I think just being one-on-one with the student in person was different. But as far as how it worked, sitting down with the student athlete, just picking their brain a little bit and seeing what they want to major in and what classes that they want to take, that was all the same, and everything. So we just tried to make the best of it, and just getting to know the student athlete. And then also, most of the student athletes that I work with take advantage of our summer courses. So during orientation, we signed them up for summer courses as well. So that gave me an opportunity the whole summer to, connect with them and check in with them and get to know them a little bit better before the fall semester started.
With some of the changes recently, have there been any kind of surprise silver linings or any, whoa, why didn't we think of doing it this way before, kind of moments for academic services?
I think maybe some silver linings, to be honest with you. I think doing the Zooms and like seeing the student athletes kind of outside the classroom like that, outside of work, and things like that, I think it makes me like get to know them a little bit better. I know that may be a little weird, but it's just, you get to experience, what they're going through on a daily basis. They're not just, coming down into the academic center. These students, are sitting in their dorms, and we're all learning this together. That's where, this has kind of been a silver lining, because me and the student athlete are, nobody's gone through this before. So I'm learning it and they're learning it at the same time. So we're really working together to just try to figure out what is the best way to support, this student athlete. What's the best way for them to excel? So I think that, and then, us knowing that we're all on the same team here, we're all in the same boat. So it's just kind of been, that's where I think, we kind of build that relationship even stronger, in my opinion. So I would say that's a big silver lining. To be honest with you, knock on wood, I don't think we haven't had like a whoa moment yet. It's still the beginning of September. So, but knock on wood, we haven't had that yet. Obviously, everything's just a revolving door. Everything's changing. Everything can change tomorrow. So, but as of right now, I think we have a good setup with academic services and how we're supporting our student athletes. So we'll keep doing that, and I think we'll be in a good place at the end of the semester.
Okay, so Tyler, baseball is a sport with a lot of travel and a lot of competition. The first few weeks are hundreds, if not thousands, of miles away, and a typical week could have as many games as five different days. So what strategy do you recommend to student athletes on how to balance schoolwork, self-care, and competition?
I think any student athletes, if you're growing up and you want to be a college student athlete one day, I think just the biggest thing, like you said, Josh, I mean, especially with baseball student athletes, and really a lot of our programs at IU, the first few weeks, they're off all over the country, and academics can be very challenging, to be able to handle on the road when you're flying on planes, on long charter bus trips and things like that. So, I think my number one tip and what I always tell my student athletes is please do not procrastinate. Like, don't, if you have an assignment due and that, you're going to be hitting the road on, leaving on Thursday and you're hopping on a plane to go somewhere and you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday and not getting back until, early in the morning on Monday morning or something, just, always plan out, work ahead, stay organized. So, just making sure that, maybe you plan out something a week in advance. So that's where myself and Natalie, like I mentioned before, will, kind of map out, a week or two in advance. If we see that some of these student athletes are going to be hitting the road, like baseball, for example, in those first 3 weekends there, like they were, this year, LSU, then they're going out to North Carolina and Alabama and things like that. So, just trying to make sure that we, map that out for them and just try to, lay it out for them as much as possible. Just please do not procrastinate. Just get your work done, because I really don't want, one of my student athletes to be, done with a Sunday, a midday game on Sunday and then get ready to hop on a plane and fly back to Indiana. And then, they forgot to do an assignment and here they're on the airport scrambling to do an assignment and things like that. So just always stay ahead and get your work done ahead of time.
All right, well, that will do it for this edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Once again, we want to thank Mr. Tyler Wright for his time this evening with us and willing to come on and give us some insight to what he does. So you can read up on Indiana baseball at iubase.com. Follow us on Twitter at CUAtTheBart and at IUBase17. On Instagram, IUBase, and subscribe to the Talking Hoosier Baseball channel on YouTube, featuring these video podcasts, Summer League game clips, game day media availabilities, and more. So for Carl James, Cassidy Palmer, and Tyler Wright, I'm Josh Bennett. See you at the bar.